Hello everyone, it's Dr. Stuart Allen Swerdlow.
And Janet Diane Moya Swerdlow.
And this is the Expansions vlog or podcast, depending on your idea of what this is, for...
We don't know what it is.
Yeah, it's something.
It's news.
For the week of Christmas week 2020. It's Christmas time. It's Christmas time again.
Doesn't feel like it. It's weird. Although the trees you put up are very beautiful.
I know. And a belated Happy Hanukkah to our Jewish friends. Cause I don't think I said it last week, and I should have.
I don't think you did. Did you say Happy Kwanzaa?
It's not Kwanzaa yet.
It's not?
No.
When's Kwanzaa?
December 26th.
But that will be after the podcast, so you should say Happy Kwanzaa.
And you're part black, so you should have known that.
Yeah, I should have, but...
It's a fake holiday like everything else.
I like more real holidays.
Okay, back to me. And there's been a lot of things going on this week. A lot of things that are very disturbing. Besides your disturbing what I do and all that stuff. So, let's go to Canada again, eh? A. According to...
C. It starts with a C.
Okay, that's enough. According to Rebel News, Justin Trudeau, and I add Castro, invited China's People's Liberation Army to send its troops for cold weather training at CFB Petawawa in Ontario. Petawawa.
I'll channel you. Watch your mouth.
You watch your mouth. And Trudeau Castro raged at the Canadian Armed Forces for canceling the training after China kidnapped Canadian citizens Michael Spavor and Michael Kovrig.
Why?
Because he's a freaking communist, Trudeau Castro.
Oh, why did they kidnap the Canadians?
Because they said they were spying on China. And according to sources, they don't think that Canadians knew that Trudeau has been training the Chinese army here on Canadian soil at Canadian Forces bases. That's what the CFB means, Canadian Forces bases. And of course, there's like a brackets EA. Canadian Forces bases, A. Yeah. It's shocking that Canada would train a communist dictatorship in winter warfare techniques that could theoretically be used against us and will surely be used against allies in India, as well as against Chinese citizens in Xinjiang, which is Tibet and Hong Kong. The anti-American language in the secret documents is deeply worrying, as it shows that Canada is reorienting itself away from our traditional democracy allies, which there aren't anymore, and towards the world's worst tyrants, much like Pierre Trudeau tried to do during the Cold War. Pierre was not a nice person, and neither was his stepson, not his real son, Justin. So the son of Castro shows his true colors and needs to go someplace like Gitmo.
But now, did you hear the story that supposedly these Chinese people attacked the U.S. in their underground tunnels?
Yes, that was last week's podcast. Let's keep it current.
About it.
Yes, I said there was an attack, a bombing in Michigan and in Maine.
You did talk about
underground. Yes. Were you here? Were you paying attention to anything I said? No. No. You worry about your nails and your hair. And yeah. Okay.
Like you.
It's no problem. I don't have to worry about them because they're already beautiful, but you may have to think about it. Anyway, let's go to another traitor. There was a correspondence between Hunter Biden and chairman of CEFC, it's a Chinese company, Chairman Ye Jianming, from 2017 that shows President-elect Joe Biden's son extending, quote, best wishes from the entire Biden family, unquote, and urging the chairman to quickly send a $10 million wire to properly fund and operate the Biden joint venture with the now bankrupt Chinese energy company. You know what? Yesterday I asked them also for $10 million. They didn't answer me.
Well, they're bankrupt.
I said I'll take $5 million.
I'll take one.
But they didn't answer. So it continues what Hunter Biden said. He said, I hope my letter finds you well. I regret missing you on your last visit to the United States. Please accept the best wishes from the entire Biden family, as well as my partners. Well, they're not too much involved with China, right? He added, we are all hoping to see you here again soon or in Shanghai. And then it concluded the establishment of Sinohawk Holdings, which is the Biden joint venture with CEFC, and said he looked forward to introducing him to his business associate, Tony Bubalinsky, who had it on him after that, and act as the CEO. He said, I would appreciate if you would send that quickly so we could properly fund and operate Sinohawk. Yeah, like send the money like now. I'm asking them, that's not coming from me. I'd like them to send money to me now.
He knows so much about all this stuff, this Hunter Biden.
He says, I'm sure you have been well briefed by your dear friend Director Zhang on the political and economic connections we have established in countries where you are interested in expanding during the coming months and years. I'll translate. I'm arranging for you to take over these countries so they could be communist Chinese also.
Probably written all in code.
Not in code, he pretty much said it. And Ye wrote back to Biden saying, the consensus we made last time have been materialized in timely manner. Of course, he said it in Chinese. Now, according to a September report released by the Senate Homeland Security Committee and Senate Finance Committee on their investigation into Hunter Biden's foreign business dealing, Yi Jianming, Gong Guangdong, and other Chinese nationals that Hunter Biden had business associations with were linked to listen to this, they're linked to the Chinese Communist government and the People's Liberation Army. That's not a good thing. And according to reports, it says these associations resulted in millions of dollars in questionable transactions and cash flow. Yeah, you want his father to be president, right? Meanwhile,
He doesn't know anything about this.
Of course he's not.
He's innocent.
I can't explain why my eyes turned from ice blue to black. Oh, maybe it's the demon inside.
And I can't explain why my son now has millions of dollars in
Yes,
his
I'm
bank
so
account.
proud of my son who got rid of his drug issue. Yeah, that's why he's laying on these pictures with a pipe in his mouth, unconscious. Yeah, he really helped himself. Really good. Meanwhile, Fox News obtained another email showing Hunter Biden requesting keys for his new office mates. And you know who his office mates are?
Xing Zhangdong and...
No, his office mates are Joe Biden, Jill Biden, Jim Biden. You get like a theme here?
No.
Yeah, Biden theme.
I don't get it.
And General Manager Cecilia Browning at the House of Sweden. I don't know what that is. It's a building in Washington, D.C., which contains multiple office suites as well as a number of embassies.
It's convenient.
In the email, Hunter Biden also requested keys for Gong Wendong, whom he describes as an emissary for Chairman Ye Jianming, the chairman of CEFC, Chinese Energy Company. And a well-placed government source told Fox News that Hunter Biden is a subject or target of the grand jury investigation, and a target means is a high probability that the person committed a crime. You think he committed a crime? So the media is starting to mention them now, these crime issues, but never mentions it when Biden is interviewed. They just fluff it over. And that's, and I was told, and I don't know if I put this in my blog report, but some media has been told either you tell the truth or you're going to jail. Some of them don't care, they're just fighting back, they have nothing to lose. So, speaking of another criminal, New York City Politico Lindsey Boylan alleged last week that New York Governor Andrew Cuomo sexually harassed her for years.
She's been talking about this for a while, hasn't she?
She worked for the governor's administrative term 2015 to 2018. She worked for Empire State Development, the state's economic development public benefit organization, until March 2018, when she became Deputy Secretary for Economic Development and Special Advisor to Cuomo. Yes, she said, this is from her quote, yes, New York Governor Cuomo sexually harassed me for years, Boylan wrote. Many saw it and watched. I could never anticipate what to expect. Would I be grilled on my work, which was very good, or harassed about my looks, or would it be both in the same conversation? That was the way it was for years. New York, listen to me, New York people. I know you're starting to fight back, and that's a good thing. But New York needs to remove Governor Cuomo from office. He is the most corrupt governor of New York ever. Now let's go to the Middle East.
Okay.
not in the Middle East of the U.S., but
I didn't
Middle
think
East.
we could
Because
get
New York is in the middle of the East, blah, blah. So there's a dispute that is now rocking the Muslim world, and it's not about whether Prophet Muhammad's famous night journey actually took place or was a dream. I sometimes also don't know if things happen or if I dreamt it, but since I don't sleep, they have to be real, right? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so the current debate, which is intertwined with political, religious, and nationalistic motivations, has to do with the question of where is the Al-Aqsa mosque. Now, Al-Aqsa in Arabic means the farthest, like it's the farthest away. I should call you Al-Aqsa, because you're always far away. Like, I need Janet, where's she? Oh, she's Al-Aqsa. Anyway, according to Muslim tradition, Muhammad set off on his way into the heavens from Al-Aqsa Mosque. Now, Muslim belief, backed by religious literature, says that the angel Gabriel was revealed to Muhammad in Mecca, and he was riding a winged beast named Al-Buraq. Muhammad took the angel up on his invitation to ride Al-Buraq into the sky, but made an important stop at Al-Aqsa. Now, when he got to Al-Aqsa, he was told that Muslims must worship 5 times a day, and the prayers must be directed towards Mecca. So, is Al-Aqsa in Jerusalem, as the vast majority of Muslims believe, or as Saudi Arabian researcher Osama Yamani claims in the Saudi establishment paper Okaz, that Al-Aqsa is near Mecca in the Arabian Peninsula? That's a big difference. And it's going to be important to what I'm going to tell you now. According to Yamani, the mosque Muhammad visited is actually located in Al-Jurana in Saudi Arabia's Makkah province. Do you think they have Makkah route there?
I hope so.
Because that would be good. And Yamani is now, of course, he's being accused of spreading perverse nonsense that contradicts the Quran and Sunni Islam. And on Turkish television, he was called sick or insane.
I was surprised they let him on
Not a
Turkish
surprise,
television.
yeah. And they said that he was serving a Zionist agenda and attempts by Jewish Middle East scholars to deny that Al-Aqsa is in Jerusalem. Others say the article was published for political reasons as an attempt by Saudi Arabia to normalize relations with Israel. And that's very important what I'm going to tell you. But here's now historical information that you need to know. The first thing is the identification of Al-Aqsa in Jerusalem as the Quranic message has been disputed. The Egyptian intellectual Dr. Youssef Zaidan did so in 2015, as the Jordanian researcher Dr. Suleiman Al-Tarawana in 2017, and an Israeli researcher Dr. Mordechai Kedar, who has been telling this for 12 years, that Al-Aqsa is not in Jerusalem. Now and this has been going, did you know this argument has been for over 1,000 years?
No, I never heard of this argument before.
Now let me explain to you, Lucy. Listen. 50 years after the death of Muhammad in 682 AD, Abd Allah ibn al-Zubayr, who was they called him bully of Mecca, revolted against the Umayyad dynasty that ruled them from Damascus. He closed the roads and prevented Damascus residents from making the Hajj to Mecca. So they had no other choice, the Umayyads, than to just go to Jerusalem as an alternative. And so one of the 5 fundamental commandments of Islam is to go to the Mecca. And they couldn't go, so they went to Jerusalem instead. So to entrench their choice of Jerusalem, they invented the story that Al-Aqsa Mosque, mentioned in the Quran, wasn't in Jurana, but in Jerusalem. I'm buzzing.
Is it the Queen?
Yes, actually. She said, can I come out of my castle? To entrench, they linked the story of the Quran myth about Muhammad's night flight to Al-Aqsa Mosque by inventing a number of stories that are essentially rewritten history. They rewrote history. Oh, is that a surprise? Where have we seen that before? Everywhere.
Yeah, it's all
Yeah.
very true world history.
So they stress that Jerusalem became holy to Islam.
It's under your hand.
Excuse me. Jerusalem became holy to Islam 60 years after the death of Muhammad, when the Umayyad dynasty ruled the land of Israel. They had no access to the Islamic holy sites on the Arabian Peninsula after Al-Zubayr seized power there. And so basically, that explains why in the Quran there's no mention of Jerusalem. And it even says in the Quran that Israel belongs to the Jews.
That I know.
So all of this Al-Aqsa on the Holy Mount,
Yeah, very interesting.
it's not true. It was created years after the death of Muhammad.
And they're just now bringing this out to the public.
And I'll tell you why. Because it's a precursor for the third temple in Jerusalem. And it was on Mount Moriah. And it's also why many Muslim countries are now recognizing Israel, because they realize they have no claim to Jerusalem.
That's very interesting.
And neither do the Palestinians, which is another story. But before I go into that particular, I want to give a side story here about eyes.
Eyes.
Yes, because there's a cure for blindness that is on the horizon from the Harvard Medical School, that they've successfully restored vision loss due to glaucoma in mice. So those mice don't have to wear little glasses anymore.
So how the mice get glaucoma to start with? I don't want to
Yeah,
know.
they lose with their little tiny yellow glasses.
I don't want to know how they.
You know that story, 3 blind mice. That's about that had glaucoma.
Oh,
That's why she had to cut off their tail.
Oh, it's
It
terrible.
was terrible. So anyway, they said they turned back the clocks of eye cells using a cocktail of proteins. I prefer vodka and lime juice. It's a complex tissue that has been reprogrammed. Now, this is a very important story. And it also conquers other neurological diseases, including dementia.
Why are you pointing at me?
I'm just saying. So the study demonstrates that it's possible to safely reverse the age of complex tissues, such as the retina, and restore its youthful biological function. Now, this is very important. I'm going to explain why.
I'm waiting.
Because there's a gene expression of patterns and electrical signals of the cells that are returned to a similar state as in young mice, including improved vision. Studies explain that their technique could actually heal the damaged optic nerves in the mice with glaucoma. Now here's the thing. The retinal ganglion cells are brain neurons. The eyes are actually part of your brain. Nobody realizes
I
that.
knew that.
Even your teeth are part of your brain.
I knew that.
Yeah, well, nobody does. The team believes their approach can work in restoring other organs too. So basically, this is a longevity technique that came from the secret space program, which I've talked about, age regression, where they bring people back years and years. So this is happening. It's existed. Now they're bringing it to the public.
And all you have to do is do your mental affirmations and your mental work, and you can regenerate, because the body itself is scientifically proven that the whole thing regenerates approximately once every 7 years.
Okay, now back
And
to me.
therefore, it's mind pattern that causes the degradation of the physical structure.
Okay. Back to me now.
Okay.
So remember I told you about all these countries that are now starting to recognize
Yes.
Israel. So now,
So now we're back to Israel from mice?
yeah, I just had to go to a side thing for eyes
Yeah.
because of the issues that I had over the years,
Yeah.
which was interesting to me. And some of this research also happened in Israel. So now Oman.
Okay, I'm following it, finally.
Okay, silence. Oman and Indonesia are the next in line to establish diplomatic relations with Israel. And already the United Arab Emirates, Bahrain, Sudan, and Morocco have agreed to normalize relationships. And I didn't even know this, but the little country of Bhutan, between India and China and Tibet, agreed to establish Israeli ties as well. And Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said that he's in touch with additional countries that want to join and establish relations with us. Now, here's something extremely, extremely important, people. Pakistani officials have met with Israeli officials, including diplomatic circles, that Pakistan could be the next country to normalize with. This is extremely important because Pakistan has been publicly hostile to Israel over the Palestinian issue. But, and this I didn't even know, and I told you this the last time, I didn't know this, there's a long history of covert ties between Pakistan and Israel, according to the Jerusalem Post. Now, why is this happening? Saudi Arabia has, and also the United Arab Emirates, generated pressure on Pakistan to normalize relations with Israel and minimize relations with Turkey. As we know, Erdogan is a terrible dictator. Pakistan is hoping that a deal with Israel would help improve its ties with Saudi Arabia, which has stopped financial assistance and oil exports to Pakistan. I didn't know that. The UAE has halted visas for Pakistani citizens. But Pakistanis who live and work in Saudi Arabia provide 1.5 billion to 2.5 billion to Pakistan's economy. So the country's economy would shrink unless the visa ban is reversed. Both Arab countries, Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates, have asked Pakistan to stop its alliance with Turkey and normalize relations with Israel. In return, Saudi Arabia will reinstate financial assistance and start providing the oil to Pakistan, and the UAE would reissue visas.
Wow.
Now, if I establish relations with Israel, will Saudi Arabia give me, billions in aid?
Maybe.
I'm going to ask
They
them.
should. You could use billions in aid.
Yeah, really. So anyway, this could also promote peace between Pakistan and India. Because, Israel is very close with India, and they provide a lot of military aid to India. So it's in Pakistan's best interest to be, involved with all of that so that there can be peace there. This is a major event. I reported months ago that 15 million Pakistanis want Israel to recognize them as Jews from the Lost Tribes. Remember that story? 15 million of them want to be Jewish and come to Israel, but there's no room for them.
So then they have to make part of that Pakistan, part of Israel maybe.
Well, remember that ancient Israel went from the Nile to the Euphrates.
I think you wrote about all of that in our spirituality bundle, which hopefully everybody has. So
things are changing, people, and it all has a connection to what's going on here in the United States, and maybe next week I'll talk about that. But what was the most amazing trip we ever went on? Come on, don't look.
We've been on a lot of amazing.
What was the most fascinating one and the scariest?
Antarctica?
Yes. So more than 30,000 tremors have rocked Antarctica since the end of August.
Who knew they even had earthquakes there?
Well, according to the University of Chile, a spike in the seismic activity has intrigued researchers. And some of them have been small, but some have been as big as 6 on the Richter scale, and detected in the Bransfield Strait, a 60-mile wide or 96-kilometer ocean channel between South Shetland Islands and the Antarctic Peninsula. We were in the Antarctica. And so there's sometimes more than 1,000 earthquakes a day.
As a normal thing? They didn't
That's
tell us
not
that.
normal. No, it's like sometimes I shake like that also.
That's
but
true. But maybe we wouldn't have gone if we did that.
Well, we did. And we actually sailed. Remember we went into a volcano? We actually sailed
I
into
remember.
That was really
And
stupid.
we saw UFOs.
Yeah, but that was really stupid because it was an active volcano. Anyway, they become so frequent that the strait itself, which was originally increasing about 7 or 8 millimeters a year, is now expanding 15 centimeters or 6 inches a year. So my question is, could it have something to do with the Fourth Reich? Are they digging tunnels, maybe to escape?
They already have tunnels.
No, but could they be, because, the deep state's coming to an end. Anyway, let me just give you a little bit of tidbits, okay? So according to these tidbits, and I didn't go into detail because I didn't have time before this filming, but according to some information, I don't believe this particularly, but there could be a declared war with China before January 20th. I don't really believe that, but I'm throwing it out there to you. And also, it says the controlled fake news media are falsely blaming Russia for cyber attacks on the United States when the real source is China. However, Secretary of State Pompeo specifically said it was Russia, which was a little surprising to me. Something's going on there for public consumption. Now, did you see the story of the nurse in Tennessee that lost consciousness and passed out when she took the coronavirus? Now, we don't know if it's from the virus or she was just nervous. We don't know.
Or she even got it shot.
Yeah. And also, and I've reported on this before, but it's been accentuated that military assets are now positioned globally and awaiting a go. I got your hair in my mouth.
Not my hair.
It's not mine, it's red.
Not my hair.
For what?
A cat.
I don't lick a cat, okay?
I saw you licking the cat this morning. Little Henri.
Now, there's also a UBS bank fraud allegation which reveals ties to the Democratic politicians, including Obama and the Clinton crime family. That's going to be coming up soon. World Economic Forum wants big government, big banks, and big corporations to vaccinate the world. Well, that we know, that news. Now here, but this is interesting. You know that Mitch McConnell, that he's like, became a traitor. Apparently, Mitch McConnell received donations from Dominion voting systems and shut down 2 election integrity bills in 2020. So he's a piece of garbage. Time for him to go back in his tomb. And 4 volunteers immunized with Pfizer's coronavirus vaccine developed Bell's palsy.
That is.
But Pfizer said, well, the FDA says, oh, that didn't cause it.
It was going
It
to
just
happen
happened to have. They were going to have it anyway.
Like the old people in nursing homes.
So they just happened to all get it 5 minutes after the injection.
The old people in nursing homes that get it and they die. It's not from COVID now. It's from just old age.
The Pentagon orders the shutdown of all classified internal communications networks running SolarWinds Orion software. And I just want to explain that to you, which I hope I have it here. Yes, SolarWinds platform was used in Dominion voting systems, making the entire election subject to cyber interference. And the Obamas, Clintons, and Communist China are all linked.
Well, that's a shock.
SolarWinds, yes. And SolarWinds Orion hack is generating a lot of questions about this company and who is behind it. And we all know it leads back to the Communist Chinese Party. Facebook and Twitter gave Biden cash and protected Hunter.
They must have put it in big trunks.
Well, they said Mark Zuckerberg, which I prefer to spell his name with an F instead of a Z. Jack Dorsey and other big tech executives donated to Joe Biden in the run-up to the election. No surprise there. The UK is to deploy, this is actually funny, but it's not funny. The UK is going to deploy resuscitation facilities in coronavirus vaccination centers to treat the wave of allergic reactions caused by the vaccine. So take it, pass out, get resuscitated.
And move on.
Yeah, and keep it going.
Let's get the next cow in here.
We're not amused.
I mean, that's why the queen was
I
called.
want to see the queen get a real one.
Yeah.
That'd be the end of her.
You would never know.
Now, this is interesting because remember that story about the UPS, actually United States Postal Service whistleblower named Jesse Morgan, who revealed that he drove 280,000 ballots from New York to Pennsylvania. Why? And he said the ballots disappeared. He was interrogated by the FBI, and he said they showed no interest in the election fraud at all. Now, here's a surprise for you. Plastic face shields cannot prevent COVID-19 transmissions.
Well, we know all that stuff.
It's because it comes from in your body. You can't transmit it anyway.
It's silly.
So that's what I got for you
Nice.
for now.
All right, I got lots of very interesting things. Starting with the election news, because it was big news that 13th Circuit Judge Kevin Elsenheimer ordered the removal of a protective order preventing the 23-page report conducted by Allied Security Operations Group from being released after attorney Matthew DePerno pushed for transparency in a court hearing. In the report, Russell Ramsland Jr., co-founder of Allied Security Operations Group, said Antrim's County server showed over 15,000, almost 16,000 individual events with 68% reporting errors. The report says the allowable election error rate established by the Federal Election Commission guidelines is of 1 in 250,000 ballots, or
It's like
basically
0.0 something.
it's 0.0008%.
Right, and now it was 68%. That's a little different.
68.05%.
Right, it's a little different.
So the report says this demonstrated a significant and fatal error in security and election integrity.
Yeah, no fraud there.
According to Ramsland, the voting system, quote, is intentionally and purposefully designed with inherent errors to create a systemic fraud and influence election results.
That's the truth.
The report said the error rates that resulted in tabulation errors or ballots proved the Dominion voting system in Michigan was flawed and does not meet state or federal election laws. Now, Dominion disputed the findings in writing and said there were no software glitches that switched these votes, and they attributed it to human error.
Oh, right. From 0.005% to 68, and that's human error.
Yeah, Peter Navarro, an advisor to Trump, released a detailed report summarizing such allegations in 6 battleground states, concluding that they are serious enough to warrant an urgent probe and substantial enough to overturn the results. Trump campaign attorney Jenna Ellis said there's still time for state legislatures to convene in special sessions and authorize an alternate slate of electors. This could pave the way for the joint session of Congress when it convenes January 6th to actually count the electoral votes to declare Trump president for a second term.
And I think that will happen.
That's what I said.
And if not, the military will come in.
So then there was a fringe right-wing lawyer who filed a court challenge to Trump's election loss in Georgia, who's called the president's supporters to stock up on Second Amendment supplies, presumably firearms and ammunition, to prepare for what he apparently envisions as an apocalyptic future. Our leader is Donald Trump, said attorney Lynn Wood. Make sure you have plenty of water, food, flashlights, batteries, candles, radio, Second Amendment supplies, and a plan to meet with leaders of your community.
Do we have that?
I hope so.
We don't know the leaders of our community.
That's maybe true.
We don't have any.
That's true. Wood has called on Trump to declare martial law in a bid to wrest the White House from the electorate. Now listen to this. The attorney's theory is that Americans are working with Venezuela, China, Serbia, Canada, Venezuela, Cuba, the CIA, George Soros, the Clinton Foundation, and state and local officials from both parties.
What about Iran?
Both parties who rigged the presidential election. Doesn't say that here.
Well, I would put that in.
Wood has filed several lawsuits challenging the election results. Now, General Michael Flynn has said that Trump has options, including seizing voting machines and using military capabilities to rerun the election in key battleground states.
I agree. Should.
He says while he doesn't know if the president will pursue those options, he said that Trump needs to plan for every eventuality because we cannot allow this election and the integrity of our election to go the way it is. He could immediately, on his order, seize every single one of these machines around the country.
Yeah, but they probably erased them already.
He could order within the swing states to take military capabilities, and he could place them in those states and basically rerun an election in each of those states. It's not unprecedented, said Flynn.
It isn't?
That's what he says. The imposition of martial law, he said, he's not calling for it, but we have a constitutional process. And he said, I'm a little concerned about Chief Justice John Roberts of the Supreme Court. We can't fool around with the fabric of the Constitution of the United States.
He's a piece of garbage, that Justice Roberts.
These people out there are talking about martial law like it's something we've never done. Flynn says martial law has been instituted 64 times.
Wow.
And history teaches us that election delays are nothing new.
Well, we know that.
And the Pentagon troops, speaking of the virus, will not be required to take the coronavirus vaccine.
Because why?
They said because it's not fully licensed. But they said the FDA, once it fully licenses it, because it's under emergency approval right now, that it's possible they might make the troops take it. Now, it also says that 2/3 of the majority of Americans now say they would take the vaccine, up from only half in September. So that's because their campaign on mind control, say no to mind
Yeah, because they're all
control, is
brainwashed.
working.
They're brainwashed.
That's right. It says the Pfizer vaccine requires 2 doses to complete, which I didn't
Really?
realize that.
That's terrible.
It says once the department has distributed the first round of 44,000 doses, it will contact the supplier for the second round of doses.
If anyone is alive.
Well, they may just have, hissy fit, anaphylactic shock and so forth. So right-wing commentator Candace Owens calls Fauci and Bill Gates evil.
Yes, they are.
And says the pharmaceutical industry is wrought with corruption.
You think?
And under no circumstances will she take the coronavirus
Good.
vaccine. And she insisted that she was not against vaccines in general. Now, Americans, which I have been continuing to report on this, are in full revolt against the pandemic lockdown. Individually and in organized groups, people are pushing back. And I
Good.
told you last time about bar owner here in Michigan. Oh, no, this was in New York, the Staten Island
Yeah,
resident.
but they did fine him and revoke his.
Well,
liquor
unfortunately, they sent a deputy to arrest him, so he got in his car and he ran the deputy down and broke both his legs.
You know what? I don't blame him.
I don't blame
I
him, but
don't
we
agree
can't-
with violence, but you know what? That we're against Nazis.
Because these people are saying that nothing is working, and I reported on this before. From coast to coast, businesses and individuals are ignoring restrictive rules. Another shutdown just isn't an option for us, said Steven Sirens of the brewing company of Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. Interesting, since we're in Christmas week. He announced that we and thousands of other small businesses throughout the country simply will not survive. After speaking with our bank, staff members, families, attorneys, and local government officials, we have decided we will not comply with future
Good.
shutdown mandates.
Good.
And we will continue to operate with the same proven safe measures we implemented 5 months
You know,
ago.
people of the United States, if you all do not comply and you revolt
right.
against it, they're not going to arrest 350 million people.
They
It's
can't.
not possible. Don't listen to them.
The Pennsylvania Opening Business Defying the Governor has over 43,000 members on Facebook and encourages people to patronize the businesses that are staying open because that helps all of us. There's a Reopen Minnesota coalition, also represents hundreds of businesses defying closures and raising money for legal defenses against the state. And the group calls for stripping Governor Tim Walz of his emergency powers.
Oh, they should just strip him.
and for
period.
ignoring, yeah, that's true.
Well, that'd be pretty ugly to see that.
That's true. And for ignoring restrictions so people can decide for themselves how to interact. On the West Coast, restaurants are opening their doors for customers despite the orders. And in Solvang, which is a
California.
community in Santa Barbara, it recently voted to ignore shutdown orders.
Good.
And the officials directed that the city of Solvang will not actively enforce the latest state shutdown orders. And the city requests the county and state regulators to prioritize education, and they will not enforce the orders within the city limits. So
Good, we've
people
all-
are standing up.
We've had enough.
Here in Michigan, the Senate considers forming a joint committee that could suspend COVID-19 restrictions. This would be a concurrent resolution 36, which would form a joint committee of the legislature acting between sessions to suspend rules or regulations administered by state administrative agencies.
And I told you this morning
Mm-hmm.
that I read that they're going to open up skiing
Yeah.
here in Michigan, and bars and
Gyms, didn't you say?
Uh,
Or not?
I had to look at the information, but it was like a wine tasting.
Oh yeah, a wine tasting.
Wine tasting.
Like
That's
we need
very,
wine tasting.
very important.
Apparently. But this was very interesting in Austria. An Austrian parliamentary member demonstrated the defectiveness of the government's COVID-19 test. Did you see this one? He brought a glass of Coca-Cola, to the stage, and he tested it using their rapid test kit.
Yeah.
And that in front of
Came
them, in
positive?
3 minutes, it showed that the Coca-Cola was positive. So now he said, well, what should we do? Because now we've all been...
Can't drink Coke anymore.
But not only that, but the whole parliament had been,
They drank it. They drank it?
No, but they've been contaminated because obviously it was
Good.
Coca-
Where was this?
This was in Austria.
In Austria. Good for him.
Yeah, and then he went on to say that the tests were a waste of taxpayer resources because guess what? Somebody that's selling those tests is making a lot
Because
of
they're
money.
all fake.
He said, with things like this, you are throwing tens of millions of euros in tax money out the window instead of providing real protection for old people in nursing homes and hospitals. Now, Brazil, I might want to move to there.
It's too hot.
Are you sure?
Yeah, it's very
How
hot.
about the jungle? I like
It's
the jungle.
Oh, you can go.
Jungle's interesting.
I'm not going.
Brazil's Minister of Foreign Affairs says no to the World Economic Forum's WEF proposed Great Reset agenda, telling the United Nations special session on COVID-19 that totalitarian social control is not the remedy for any crisis.
It's not the remedy for anything.
Now, apparently the Great Reset is the brainchild of World Economic Forum, WEF, founder Klaus Schwab, who has been planning the technocratic agenda to reset all of society and the global economy for many years.
And would he perhaps be friends with George Soros?
Most likely. Now, this man, his name is from Brazil, Ernesto, how do you say his last name? Arario. Okay, Ernesto, I'll call him Ernesto because it's easier for me to say.
Call him Ernie.
No, Ernesto. So Ernesto says Brazil is a founding member of the UN and hence is committed to its basic principles of peace and security, cooperation among nations, respect for human rights, and fundamental freedoms. He told the UN that COVID must not be taken as a pretext to advance agendas that extrapolate from the constitutional structure of the UN system. He said fundamental freedoms are not an ideology, that human dignity requires freedom as much as it requires health and economic opportunities. Those who dislike freedom always try to benefit from moments of crisis to preach the curtailing of freedom, and let's not fall into that trap. Totalitarian social control is not the remedy for any crisis. Let's not make democracy and freedom one more victim of COVID-19. Now, back in April, he also wrote that globalism replaces socialism as a preparatory stage for communism.
Or dictatorship.
He refers to the coronavirus as the communivirus, after reading a recent booklet by a Slovenian philosopher and communist, from which he extrapolated that viruses were beneficial for spreading communism. Now, Ernesto's belief that climate science was a dogma being used to justify increasing the regulatory power of states over the economy and the power of international institutions on the nation states and their populations, as well as to stifle economic growth in democratic capitalist countries and to promote the growth of China. Now, his views obviously have not won him many friends on the international stage. He's a cabinet member of the Bolsonaro administration.
I like Bolsonaro.
And his Wikipedia page states that he subscribes to conspiracy theories.
Right. Anyone that goes against the deep state is a conspiracy
That's right.
theorist.
Now, this Klaus Schwab, who's the one who created supposedly the Great Reset agenda that recalls for a complete restructuring of society under a new form of stakeholder capitalism, where ownership is obsolete and privacy is non-existent thanks to invasive technologies coming out of the Fourth Industrial Revolution, which makes me think of the Fourth Reich, that will lead us to Schwab's words, a fusion of our physical, digital, and biological identities. All of the technologies of the so-called Fourth Industrial Revolution, such as blockchain, AI, computer vision, the IoT ecosystem, can be used to help uplift people out of poverty and give power back to the people, but it can also be enlisted to do the opposite and enforce totalitarian control under a social credit system like the Chinese Communist Party uses, for example, contact tracing. Now, they even have a contact tracing app in China for deadbeat debtors, so if you're within 500 meters of someone who's in debt, you get publicly shamed.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
That's horrible.
Now, proponents of this Great Reset agenda, and remember, I told you about this before, it's called Build Back Better, and that's...
I'm glad you mentioned that.
Yeah.
If you take the initials BBB
Right.
in small b's,
Right.
what does that look like?
Yes, 666, absolutely. Guess who is a proponent of the Great Reset agenda? Prince Charles,
Yeah, duh.
John Kerry, and your best friend, Justin Trudeau
Not
Castor.
my best friend. I'd give him a mask right now.
Yeah. Instead of being a mandate from the people as a response to the coronavirus crisis, the Great Reset agenda was cooked up years ago by unelected bureaucrats as a way to introduce a new form of stakeholder capitalism while instituting a fresh framework for global governance. The WEF envisions a future where we, the people, own nothing. We all live in a citizen-centered welfare state, while the government and stakeholders own and control the means of the population. There is no talk of freedom on their Great Reset discussions. They talk about equity, inclusivity, prosperity by sacrificing personal ownership, like our white privilege, right?
Right. I have such
Privacy,
privilege.
liberty, and the foundations of constitutional republics. Now, this is what I have seen, and this is why they're running all the small businesses out as the Amazons and everybody else's net worth goes up, because they're taking away ownership and your ability. And in just my lifetime, I have seen small business, family business from small farms, family farms, gas station owners. You can't have it
Everything.
yourself.
Anything small.
Right, and these big giants come in and they run the small business out.
Right, because it's
You
easier to run big giants than all the billion
Right,
little
and you
businesses.
can't compete. Like we have told people before, what we pay as a small business in taxes, you don't have a clue what we have to
You
pay.
probably pay more than Walmart.
Yeah, so they don't tell you that you can't have a business. They make it so that economically it's not viable, and that's what's happening right now with all this coronavirus thing. Now they're already doing everything that they are making you fear, except you don't know it or you accept it. And my example is fluoride in your water. People accept that, and that's a mind-controlling drug. So
They think
like I
it's a
tell
good
you,
thing.
read our book, Say No to Mind Control, so you can learn what's going on and stand up. Black Lives Matters has already raised since May, $10.6 billion in donations.
And where is that going? To the
Well,
Democratic
according
Party.
to this, which you've talked about before, it goes to the Democratic Party's fundraising platform called Act
Right.
Blue.
Act Blue.
That's right. Now, since all of this happened with George Floyd, the black-on-black murder rate has increased since the 2020. It's increased exponentially. It doesn't say how much, but it says it's increased, which we all know, exponentially. Black poverty, incarceration, drug use, single parenthood are as high as ever. The Black Lives Matter is against police, the nuclear family structure, which are two things that black Americans desperately need in a time when single motherhood runs rampant, as well as the crime that single motherhood households breed. The protesting and riots that BLM instigate are ways to fundraise for people at the top. So $10.6 billion in the U.S. alone could end a lot of poverty.
Right.
But I don't know whose business that they're helping with it, and their black businesses are being destroyed as much as the white. And all people of color, say non-whites.
Everybody has a
we're-
color.
Right.
Everybody has a
That's
color.
right. And guess what? Now at MIT, researchers have found a way to mark you under the skin while they give you a vaccine. They have a little patch, and they have a dye that can be delivered under the skin to show if you are vaccinated or not. And they have a mobile, like smartphone device to see it, because they say, well, you know what, if you don't have your vaccination card, so this way we can track you.
I see.
Yeah, and guess who funded it?
Gates, perhaps?
And Melinda Gates Foundation.
Right.
And I can't remember how to say it, Cook or Cock?
Koch Institute.
Koch?
Coke.
Koch Institute
Coke.
support
I know
grant.
my son knows the Koch brothers.
Yeah, so in order to see the mark, then they use this special equipped thing. And now they're talking, of course, about, which we've said this all over the place, that these are the end times as talked about in Revelations 13:16 through 8. I'm not going to read it to you, but you need to get out your Bibles and read it, because according to the Bible, someday people will not be able to perform basic day-to-day activities without this mark of the beast.
Kind of is happening now.
Isn't it though? And Ontario's Chief Medical Officer, Dr. David Williams, just said, what can we do? What we can do is to say sometimes for ease or access of getting into certain settings, if you don't have vaccination, then you're not allowed into that setting without other protection materials. But now you have the proof of your vaccination, so now you can move around. That's what they're telling you outright. And in Britain, now I reported on a story not too long ago about a transgender woman who took the British High Court went to British High Court to take what's happening to children, and she wanted it stopped. So in other words, you can't give puberty blockers to children. So now there's a woman known as Zinnia Jones. Her real name is Laura McNamara. She said if children cannot consent to puberty blockers, which pause any permanent changes, even with a relevant professional evaluation, how can they consent to the permanent and irreversible changes that come with their own puberty with no professional evaluation whatsoever? So she wants all children on puberty blockers until they can decide what gender they are.
What about looking in their pants and then decide what
But that doesn't, according to now, what they're trying to promote is that doesn't matter. So they're now calling this, the people like her, calling it a gender critical movement, which is illogical, anti-feminist, and cruel because you're not allowing these children to have their puberty blockers.
They should be executed.
Isn't that amazing?
Those people should not be alive.
And moving along, because we've talked about this. Okay, what's next? How about aliens? Well, alien hunters are investigating a mysterious radio signal from our neighboring star Proxima Centauri, which is causing the biggest excitement since the WOW signal in 1977. So this is a short-lived signal.
Take a long time to get excited.
Astronomers cannot, well, this happened in 2019, so this the current one. And astronomers cannot identify the original source, so they're looking to see if it's human-made or not.
In space, human-made.
Yeah. Well, they're looking to see if it came basically from the Earth. That's why they're saying.
And reflected back down.
Yeah. So Lewis Dartnell, who's an astrobiologist from the University of Westminster, said it's incredibly unlikely the signal is from an alien civilization.
Of course not.
He said if there's intelligent life as close as Proxima Centauri, then it is likely the galaxy is teeming with life.
Well, yes.
The chances of the only two civilizations in the entire galaxy happening to be neighbors among 400 billion stars absolutely stretches the bounds of rationality.
No, because you're a moron.
Now, you might have also read that after a year-long process, guess what? Space Force professionals will have the name Guardians.
Guardians of the universe.
Yeah.
Or galaxy.
Guardians is a name with a long history in space operations, they say, tracing back to the original command motto of Air Force Space Command in 1983 when they were called the Guardians of the High Frontier. The name Guardians connects our proud heritage and culture to the important mission we execute 24/7, protecting the people and interests of the U.S. and its allies. Now, it's interesting to me when I read this, which I'm going to tell you about a little bit about the movie in a second. But if you remember last week, I talked about the Vatican partnering with Fortune 500 countries to address poverty, they are known as the Council for Inclusive Capitalism. And Lady Lynn Forrester de Rothschild, founder of the council and managing partner of Inclusive Capital Partners, says the council will follow the warning from Pope Francis to listen to the cry of the earth and the cry of the poor and answer society's demands for a more equitable and sustainable model of growth. So what was interesting is council members, of which there are going to be 27 billionaires, they're going to be called guardians. So now we have Guardian Space Force and we have Guardians of our money.
Ooh.
Guardians for Inclusive Capitalism. How about that? So back to Space
Wonder why
Force.
they chose that name.
Isn't that interesting? So Space Force back there says critics of Space Force. At first they borrowed from Star Trek's iconic logo, which is now the United States Space Force logo, right?
Or maybe the Star Trek existed already.
Maybe. So anyway, it also points out that, here was a year-long search, and anyway, it's just crazy because they're claiming, like what you just said, that it was named after Guardians of the Galaxy. So all of this is crazy, so watch for this word Guardians. It's maybe going to keep popping up again. And Tucker Carlson.
I don't like him anymore.
No? Well, he was talking about aliens, underwater aliens.
I think he should be underwater.
Maybe. Anyway, he said that UFOs behave in ways that science can't explain, and had on Tom Rogan from the White Wing Washington Examiner to talk about a report about an incident that happened in 2019, which involved the U.S. carrier strike group. Now, it was interesting because he said pilots saw this black-white triangle. So guess what? The pilots took a photo with his phone. So you can't tell me that these sophisticated...
Right, they needed the phone to take a picture.
So, yeah, so that's why it's...
Makes sense to me.
Yeah, so I thought that was kind of crazy. So then Rogan told Tucker that the reason the Navy doesn't publicize this stuff is because they don't want China or Russia to figure out what's going on.
Right, because they don't know, right?
Right, that's why I said it's so crazy.
Knows, right.
So anyway, he went on to say that what they are doing in low orbit is beyond any capability that we can identify with an Earth nation, either in platform, something that a military is showing, or is in development.
And I think Tucker should spell his name with an F, too.
Yeah, what did he do that upset you?
He turned against the president.
He did?
Yes, he did.
Wow.
So did most of Fox News. All the ones on Fox News, like Bartiromo and the others, they should leave and go to other
Right, start their own
Newsmax
stuff,
or
right?
OAN and that kind of thing. Or start their own.
Anyway, it's all a big show going on out there. We still don't know what's going on until we see what's going on, but we are continuing to monitor everything from all of our sources, report on it on our blog, and the little bit that we can give you here in our monthly podcast. So be sure you get your membership, expansions.com. And
New books.
new books. Well, the books are take this. My Heights of Wealth is coming out soon. It's right now. It's in layout, and I'm working on the editing. So we have Heights of Deprogramming, which is our Say No to Mind Control. My latest, Heights of Relationships. That one you need. Heights of Health and Alternative Medical Apocrypha, of course, is a wonderful series. So these two, I mean, all of our books will help you control your body, mind, and soul, so it stays yours and helps you understand what's going on out in the world, so you can read through the frequencies and take control of your own life.
I'm trying very diligently to arrange the new webinars for January.
Yes, and this I also want to show you because a lot of people are ordering these for Christmas gifts, and we want to thank you for those of you who have
Well, it's a little
helped
bit late now for Christmas.
support this family with the coloring books. Well, you know what? New Year gifts are always in
Unless you
order.
do overnight shipping.
New Year's gifts are always in order. And then this, of course, is our spirituality one, which I showed you. We have Revelations of Time and Space, History, and God. King Bee, Queen Bee. We just did our Spanish-English one on Template of God Mind, which was excellent, by the way. A lot of good information. So this webinar series that we're going to be following up with will be based on the
these.
next...
And not just these, but a lot of other material.
Yeah, so we have 2 new books that will be coming out after the first of the year that we're in the process of writing right now.
Well, I haven't started yet.
Well, you have, because you've got your notes going.
Yeah, but I didn't start typing it.
Yeah, but you've got all your notes going. So all of that was the next follow-up. So if you want to stay up to date with us, because we're always moving and shaking, you need to get this in your library, start reading, so you're ready for our January classes, which will be starting soon.
And the Turkish webinar will be January 8th.
Oh, yeah, and that will be a repeat.
And that will be at 10 a.m. Eastern Time for 2 hours.
Yeah, I need to get that on the website. It's not on the website yet for so you can buy it. But anyway, it will be a repeat. So the first one was English, Spanish.
and
This will be English,
Turkish.
Turkish. So if you speak English or Turkish, this is going to be, I mean, what we did before was really amazing. It was very good.
And yes, you've heard rumors about martial law after Christmas, and I hope that it does happen.
Isn't that terrible that we really want that? They
And
said
by
we
the
would
way,
be
I'm
making...
renaming myself Marshall.
Yeah, haha. You're so funny.
I can't help it.
Yeah. So we have lots of things going on. As I said, every day we're on that website 24/7 practically, it seems. So get your membership, expansions.com, less than $1 a day. Take care of your body, mind, and soul.
And don't forget the
the
AL
AL
scan. Maybe
scan.
bring it up here and you even talk about it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
and I love it.
I know you love your
It's my
AL.
favorite.
So we do scans for people, and we have a wonderful business opportunity. So people who are using it are giving us wonderful testimonials.
And Merry Christmas to all of you who celebrate Christmas, which we'd like to call Appreciation Day.
Which means that you want appreciation gifts.
Well, I would
Oops,
like
did
to
I
be.
say that?
I would like to be appreciated, and there are not many days left
Yeah. And those
to
of you
send things.
who are unfamiliar with our work, that we have our beginner's bundle. Stuart says, right? Doesn't it look like him? And Hyperspace Helper, and of course Decoding Your Life, Universal Law. So all these are foundational basics that you need, and we have all kinds of spiritual healing books that move on from here. And all of these are wonderful foundations for our webinars and for the forthcoming books that we will be writing and releasing in 2021.
Yeah, and we're supposed to have a snowstorm Wednesday evening until Friday morning, so
Yay.
white Christmas again.
That'd be nice.
And so hope all of you have a very nice holiday
Yes.
and behave yourselves and know that despite what you hear, don't listen to the news 'cause it's all a lie. It's all a lie.
Yeah, and we appreciate you, and we appreciate your support, and we appreciate your liking, because that helps us in the algorithms,
Yep.
and we appreciate your sharing. So let everybody know that they don't have to participate in those outside circumstances. Say no to mind control.
Yes, and rebel against all restrictions. Bye for now.
Bye.